A billionaire tech CEO, Marcus Chen, lies in a vegetative state following a mysterious accident, with only his dedicated nurse Sarah Mitchell refusing to give up hope. When he finally awakens after 5 years, their growing connection is complicated by Sarah's secret investigation into his accident and her sister's disappearance. Don't forget to share where you're watching from today. Drop a comment below and join our community of story lovers. The steady beeping of medical monitors fills the pristine private hospital wing of St. Mary's Medical Center, where Marcus Chen has lain unresponsive for 5 years. The room, outfitted with state-of-the-art equipment and luxurious furnishings befitting a tech billionaire, has become a second home to Sarah Mitchell, the private nurse who's refused countless opportunities to transfer to less hopeless cases. Sarah adjusts Marcus's IV line with practiced efficiency while reviewing his vital signs, a routine she's performed thousands of times. The morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the minimal signs of aging on Marcus's face, despite his years of immobility. Top-tier medical care and Sarah's dedicated physical therapy regimen have maintained his muscle tone better than most coma patients, though his formerly commanding presence has been reduced to stillness. A slight irregularity in the heart monitor's rhythm catches Sarah's attention. She leans closer, studying the readings with intense focus. The pattern shifts again, subtle changes that might seem insignificant to others, but after 5 years of watching these monitors, Sarah recognizes something is different. Marcus's fingers twitch, a small movement that sends Sarah's heart racing. She quickly checks his other vital signs, noting increased brain activity. Years of medical training battle with rising hope as she pages the attending physician, Dr. Harrison. Within minutes, the room fills with medical staff, their controlled urgency matching the gravity of the moment. Dr. Harrison performs a series of rapid assessments, his previously skeptical attitude towards Sarah's optimism forgotten in the face of clear signs of emergence. Marcus's eyelids flutter, triggering a flurry of activity as additional specialists are called in. Sarah steps back, allowing the medical team space to work while maintaining a clear view of her patient. The next 48 hours become a carefully monitored waiting game. Marcus shows increasing signs of consciousness, responding to stimuli, tracking movement with his eyes, and eventually focusing on faces. Sarah coordinates with specialists, manages his care team, and documents every minute change while privately grappling with the implications of his awakening. During a quiet evening shift, Sarah is checking Marcus's vital signs when his hand suddenly grasps her wrist. The grip is surprisingly strong for someone emerging from a 5-year coma. His eyes open fully, meeting hers with an intensity that makes her breath catch. "I heard everything," he whispers, his voice hoarse from years of disuse. Sarah's professional mask slips for just a moment, revealing a complex mix of emotions before she recovers her composure. She gently disengages her wrist and helps him take a small sip of water, her mind racing. How much did he hear during those seemingly unconscious years? Which conversations had she had at his bedside, believing him oblivious? The hospital administration moves quickly to adjust his care plan, bringing in rehabilitation specialists and suggesting Sarah's reassignment. Marcus, however, becomes agitated at the mention of her removal, insisting with gradually strengthening voice that she remain part of his care team. His family, particularly his brother Thomas, watches these interactions with poorly concealed suspicion. Sarah's phone buzzes in her pocket during one of these tense discussions. She checks it later in the privacy of the staff break room. "He's awake. Time to finish what we started." The message is from an unknown number, but Sarah immediately deletes it, her hands shaking slightly as she recalls the hidden files in her apartment. 5 years of investigation into Marcus's accident, corporate misconduct at Chen Technologies, and the disappearance of her sister Rachel, a former Chen Technologies employee. The following days establish a new routine. Sarah works with the rehabilitation team. Her intimate knowledge of Marcus is in making her invaluable, despite others' attempts to sideline her. Marcus watching her with growing curiosity during their sessions, his mental acuity returning faster than his physical strength. He asks careful questions about his years of unconsciousness, and Sarah full answers, maintaining professional distance even as their connection deepens. During a particularly challenging physical therapy session, Marcus reveals flashes of his pre-coma personality. brilliant, demanding, and used to control. He pushes himself beyond recommended limits, refusing to stop until Sarah firmly intervenes. The moment their eyes meet, both recognize the shift in dynamic, no longer simply patient and nurse, but two people bound by unspoken complications. The media catches wind of Marcus's recovery, forcing the hospital to increase security. Sarah arrives one morning to find reporters camped outside, their presence making her acutely aware of how public this private drama could become. She takes alternate routes to avoid cameras, knowing her face in the news could compromise years of careful investigation. As Marcus regains strength, Sarah knows their time in the controlled hospital environment is limited. Soon he'll return to his corporate world, where multiple factions have spent 5 years restructuring power in his absence. Her window for uncovering the truth about her sister and the accident is closing, even as her growing feelings for Marcus complicate her mission. The topic concludes with Sarah making a late-night copy of Marcus's complete medical records, her actions caught on security cameras. As she leaves his room that evening, Thomas Chen watches from the shadows, his expression unreadable as he makes a phone call. She's definitely investigating. What are your orders? Sarah returns to her modest apartment after a demanding shift, carefully locking the door before retrieving a false-bottom drawer from her desk. The hidden compartment reveals 5 years of meticulously gathered evidence, newspaper clippings about Chen Technologies, accident reports, corporate financial records, and at the center, a worn photograph of her sister Rachel at her last company holiday party before vanishing. The next morning, her colleague Marie accidentally discovers part of Sarah's research while borrowing her laptop for patient records. A minimized folder contains dozens of archived articles about Marcus's accident, including several suggesting corporate foul play. Marie confronts Sarah in the break room, concerned about her friend's involvement in something potentially dangerous. Sarah deflects Marie's questions with practiced ease, explaining it away as natural curiosity about her long-term patient. But Marie notices how Sarah's hand trembles slightly as she closes the laptop, how her eyes dart to check if anyone else is within earshot. The interaction leaves both women uneasy, their previously open friendship now shadowed by unspoken questions. That evening, Sarah meets her contact, James Wilson, a former Chen Technologies security chief, in a dimly lit parking garage 3 towns over. James hands her an encrypted drive, his former military bearing evident in his precise movements. "This goes higher than we thought," he warns. "The board members who pushed Marcus out, they're just middlemen. Someone else was pulling the strings." The drive contains internal communications, suggesting a pattern of ethical violations in Chen Technologies' Artificial Intelligence Division, the same department where Rachel worked before disappearing. Sarah spends hours reviewing the documents, noting how certain projects were fast-tracked despite safety concerns, how whistleblowers were quietly reassigned or let go. Thomas Chen arrives at the hospital with an entourage of lawyers, their expensive suits and carefully crafted statements failing to completely mask their anxiety about Marcus's recovery. They cite concerns about Marcus's mental competency, pushing for comprehensive psychological evaluations before any discussion of returning company control. Sarah observes their interactions from the nurses' station, noting how Thomas's polished corporate facade cracks slightly when Marcus mentions specific project names from before his accident. Later, she catches Thomas searching Marcus's private room, his focus on old notebooks and personal devices betraying targeted interest rather than brotherly concern. A senior board member, Victoria Hawthorne, visits Marcus under the guise of a social call. Her designer outfit and perfectly maintained appearance contrast sharply with the sterile hospital environment. While Marcus rests after their conversation, Victoria corners Sarah in the hallway, her friendly smile never reaching her eyes as she hints at knowing about Sarah's connection to Rachel and suggesting career opportunities more suited to her qualifications. Sarah discovers her personnel file has been altered when she tries to access it for routine updating. Her sister's employment records at Chen Technologies have vanished, along with any trace of their connection. The hospital's IT department blames system updates, but Sarah recognizes the professional erasure of information. During physical therapy sessions, Marcus reveals more of his pre-coma personality. His strategic thinking remains sharp as he discusses market trends and technology evolution, but Sarah notices how he tempers his natural assertiveness around her. Their growing comfort with each other complicates her mission, especially when he shares vulnerabilities about his fears of returning to his former life. A young tech journalist, David Park, approaches Sarah with an offer, information about Rachel, in exchange for exclusive access to Marcus's recovery story. His knowledge of specific details about Rachel's work proves he has legitimate sources, but Sarah recognizes the danger of allowing press coverage she can't control. Thomas orchestrates a carefully managed press conference announcing Marcus's recovery, forcing Sarah into public view. She stands behind Marcus's wheelchair, maintaining professional composure while cameras flash and reporters shout questions. The media attention makes her more vulnerable, her face now recognizable to anyone who might want to stop her investigation. As Marcus regains strength, he begins asking more pointed questions about his lost years. Sarah walks a delicate line between maintaining his trust and protecting her investigation, each conversation a careful dance of partial truths and strategic omissions. She notices how he watches her when he thinks she's not looking, his analytical mind clearly working to solve the puzzle she presents. The situation complicates further when Sarah discovers her sister's old security badge still works at Chen Technologies. The active status suggests someone has deliberately maintained it, either as an oversight tool or a trap. She debates the risk of using it to access restricted areas, knowing it could expose her true purpose, but might provide crucial evidence. A late-night conversation with Marcus's former personal assistant reveals that multiple executives resigned or transferred just before his accident. The pattern suggests foreknowledge, but the assistant's nervous behavior and carefully worded responses indicate ongoing fear of retaliation. The topic culminates in a tense scene where Sarah returns to her apartment to find signs of a careful search. Nothing is obviously disturbed, but her trained eye notices subtle changes in how her possessions are arranged. A single fresh orchid, Rachel's favorite flower, sits on her kitchen table, both warning and message. Her phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging or the next disappearance won't be temporary. The layers of deception and danger deepen, with Sarah realizing that getting too close to the truth threatens not only her investigation, but potentially Marcus's life as he regains influence over his company. The line between protector and investigator grows increasingly blurry as she faces decisions that will impact both their futures. Marcus's physical therapy sessions intensify as he pushes to regain his former strength. During a particularly challenging session, his demanding nature surfaces fully for the first time since waking. Again, he orders, after completing a difficult set of exercises, his voice carrying the same authority that once commanded a billion-dollar tech empire. Sarah notices how other staff members automatically defer to his tone, despite his current physical limitations. The contrast between this assertive executive and the vulnerable patient she's cared for creates an unsettling dissonance. Sarah watches him drive himself through another set of exercises, recognizing the ruthless determination that built Chen Technologies. When he snaps at an aide who suggests taking a break, she sees flashes of the man who might have overlooked ethical concerns in pursuit of technological advancement. A young tech journalist, Mia Chen, no relation, waits for Sarah after her shift. Mia produces evidence of Rachel's movements after her official disappearance, surveillance photos showing her sister entering a federal building multiple times. The journalist offers to share her complete investigation files, but her price is exclusive access to Marcus's recovery story. Sarah recognizes the opportunity and risk. Mia's resources could accelerate her investigation, but allowing media scrutiny could expose her true purpose at the hospital. During their next therapy session, Marcus demonstrates his returning mental acuity by questioning Sarah about inconsistencies in the hospital's official records of his care. His corporate instincts for detecting hidden information remain sharp, forcing Sarah to carefully navigate between maintaining his trust and protecting her investigation. She notices how he watches her reactions, cataloging her responses with analytical precision. Thomas Chen orchestrates a major press conference announcing Marcus's recovery and eventual return to Chen Technologies. The hospital's largest conference room transforms into a corporate stage, complete with company logos and strategic lighting. Sarah finds herself thrust into the spotlight as reporters focus on her role in Marcus's miracle recovery. The public attention makes her vulnerable, her face now recognizable to anyone monitoring her investigation. The press conference forces Sarah to adapt her approach. She learns to use her new public image as cover, scheduling interviews that actually serve as meetings with contacts. Meanwhile, Marcus begins questioning her more directly about his lost years, particularly about conversations he claims to remember from his unconscious state. Each interaction becomes a delicate balance between truth and necessary deception. Sarah discovers her sister's old security badge remains active in Chen Technologies' system, suggesting someone has maintained it for a purpose. The discovery coincides with Marcus confiding his suspicions about the company's direction under Thomas's leadership. His questions about specific projects and personnel changes during his absence demonstrate a strategic mind reasserting control. A late-night encounter with Marcus's longtime personal assistant, Grace Wong, reveals that multiple executives mysteriously left the company just before Marcus's accident. Grace's careful phrasing and nervous glances suggest she knows more than she's saying, but fear keeps her from speaking openly. She passes Sarah a flash drive before quickly departing, her parting words cryptic. Some doors shouldn't be opened without backup. Marcus increasingly relies on Sarah for insights into his company's current state, unaware that her knowledge comes from years of covert investigation. During their private conversations, she sees him struggle to reconcile his pre-coma business decisions with his evolved perspective after years of vulnerability. His questions about corporate ethics and responsibility seem genuine, complicating her view of his possible role in Rachel's disappearance. The hospital board, pressured by Thomas Chen, moves to transfer Marcus to a specialized rehabilitation facility, one with stricter security and limited outside access. Marcus resists, insisting on maintaining his current care team. The resulting power struggle reveals the extent of Thomas's influence and the board's susceptibility to corporate pressure. Sarah receives an anonymous email containing security footage of Rachel entering Chen Technologies' main research facility the night before Marcus's accident. The timestamp matches a period when official records show the building was empty. The sender includes a message: "Choose carefully. Justice and truth rarely walk the same path." As Marcus regains physical strength, his corporate instincts resurface more prominently. Sarah observes him conducting business calls from his hospital room, his commanding presence drawing his former executive team back into his orbit, despite Thomas's efforts to maintain control. The power dynamics shift subtly with each passing day, creating uncertainty about who truly controls Chen Technologies. During a therapy session interrupted by an unexpected power outage, Marcus and Sarah find themselves alone in the dimmed room. The intimate setting prompts him to speak more openly about his fears of returning to his former life, revealing a complexity that challenges Sarah's predetermined narrative about his character. Their conversation shifts between personal vulnerability and subtle probing, each seeking truth while protecting their secrets. The topic reaches its climax when Sarah discovers Grace Wong's flash drive contains evidence linking Rachel's disappearance to a classified Chen Technologies project. The project files show Marcus had begun an internal ethics investigation shortly before his accident, but his digital signature also appears on documents authorizing questionable research practices. The revelation forces Sarah to confront the ambiguity of her mission. The Marcus Chen she's come to know, vulnerable, questioning, and increasingly ethical in his outlook, seems at odds with the corporate leader who might have contributed to Rachel's disappearance. Their worlds have collided in ways that make simple judgments impossible, and their growing personal connection further complicates her search for truth. The topic ends with Marcus using his returning strength to stand unassisted for the first time, his achievement witnessed only by Sarah. In this moment of triumph, he grasps her hand, not as a patient seeking support, but as a man reaching for connection. Sarah returns the gesture, while hiding the weight of her knowledge, both of them standing on the precipice of revelations that could destroy everything they've built. Sarah spends a sleepless night analyzing documents from Grace's flash drive, uncovering a complex web of connections between Marcus's accident and corporate decisions. Project files reveal his signature on authorizations for experimental AI development, the same division where Rachel worked. The timestamps show he approved measures that ignored safety protocols, potentially endangering employees like her sister. The evidence challenges Sarah's evolving view of Marcus. During morning rounds, she watches him interact with his medical team, noting how his natural authority now balances with genuine appreciation for their care. His questions about hospital staff's working conditions and his insistence on improving facility resources for all patients suggest authentic, ethical growth. These actions contrast sharply with documentation of his pre-coma corporate decisions. Marcus experiences increasingly vivid memory fragments during physical therapy. While practicing walking, he suddenly recalls a heated board meeting before his accident. "Thomas warned me about oversight committees," he tells Sarah, gripping the parallel bars. "He said our competitors would use regulatory compliance to steal our advantage." The memory visibly disturbs him, suggesting his brother's influence might have shaped corporate policies. The hospital receives an unprecedented donation from Chen Technologies board, ostensibly celebrating Marcus's recovery. Thomas presents the check during a press event, but Sarah notices his attention focused on Marcus's reaction to specific board members' names. Later, she discovers the donation carries stipulations about staffing decisions, including a clause that could force her reassignment. Sarah's investigation reveals a pattern of inconsistencies in Chen Technologies' accident reports. Multiple versions exist, each slightly altered to shift responsibility away from executive decisions. While cross-referencing dates, she finds security footage showing Marcus entering restricted labs late at night before his accident, apparently conducting his own investigation. Thomas pressures the hospital board to remove Sarah, citing concerns about professional boundaries and hinting at her undisclosed connection to the company. Marcus defends her position without knowing her true motives, his trust in her making her deception increasingly difficult to maintain. During one heated discussion, he reveals memory fragments that implicate board members in questionable practices, but admits uncertainty about his own role. An anonymous source offers Sarah a devil's bargain: destroy her evidence about corporate misconduct, and they'll provide Rachel's location. The offer arrives with proof of life, recent photos showing her sister alive, but operating under a new identity. Sarah must choose between exposing corporate corruption and reuniting with Rachel, understanding that either choice carries profound moral implications. Marcus's improving condition allows him more access to company information. He discovers irregularities in financial reports from the period before his accident, suggesting systematic fraud. His questions about specific projects make Thomas visibly uncomfortable, though his brother maintains a facade of support. During one late-night discussion, Marcus confides in Sarah about his growing suspicion that his accident wasn't random. A security breach at the hospital forces immediate protocol changes. Someone accessed Marcus's medical records using Sarah's credentials during hours she wasn't on duty. The investigation threatens to expose her unauthorized research, but more importantly, it creates an urgent choice: protect her investigation or ensure Marcus's safety from whoever breached security. Sarah encounters Victoria Hawthorne in an empty hospital corridor. The board member reveals knowing about Rachel's role in testing experimental AI protocols. Her carefully worded description of Rachel's reassignment carries clear warnings about the consequences of continued investigation. The conversation leaves Sarah questioning whether exposing the truth would endanger her sister further. Marcus overhears a phone conversation suggesting Sarah isn't who she claims to be. Rather than confronting her directly, he begins subtly testing her knowledge of hospital protocols and her background. His strategic mind, now fully re-engaged, picks up inconsistencies in her cover story. However, his growing emotional dependence on her complicates his response to these discoveries. The hospital's ethical review board launches an investigation into Sarah's credentials and relationship with Marcus. The scrutiny threatens both her position and her mission, forcing her to balance maintaining professional appearances with pursuing leads about Rachel. During a review meeting, Marcus unexpectedly advocates for her, describing how her care methods differed from other staff, including conversations she thought he couldn't hear while comatose. Thomas confronts Sarah privately, revealing surveillance photos of her meetings with former Chen Technologies employees. Instead of exposing her, he shares evidence suggesting board members orchestrated both Marcus's accident and Rachel's disappearance. His motives remain unclear, whether he's offering alliance or attempting manipulation. Evidence emerges linking Marcus to the approval of unsafe AI testing protocols, but additional documents suggest he began investigating accidents and disappearances before his coma. Sarah struggles to reconcile these contradictions while managing her growing personal feelings for him. Their daily interactions become layered with unspoken questions and cautious probing for truth. The topic concludes with a pivotal scene in Marcus's hospital room. While helping him with evening exercises, Sarah discovers a hidden phone containing messages between Marcus and Rachel from before his accident. The messages suggest they were working together to expose corporate misconduct. raising new questions about whether his accident aimed to stop their joint investigation. This revelation forces Sarah to reevaluate every assumption about her mission while protecting Marcus from forces that might still want him silenced. A severe thunderstorm hits the city, causing a power outage at the hospital. Emergency generators maintain critical equipment, but the usual electronic surveillance systems temporarily go dark. In Marcus's dimly lit room, the regular barriers of patient and caregiver blur as they find themselves truly alone for the first time. Marcus sits in his wheelchair by the window, watching lightning illuminate the cityscape. "I remember the last storm before my accident," he says quietly. "I was working late at the lab, reviewing project files that didn't add up." Sarah stands near him, acutely aware of the hidden phone she discovered, containing evidence of his collaboration with Rachel. The darkness seems to encourage honesty, though both still calculate their words carefully. During this enforced intimacy, Marcus begins sharing fragments of memory from before his accident. He describes late-night board meetings where ethical concerns were dismissed in favor of technological advancement. His voice carries regret when he admits prioritizing progress over people's safety. "I thought I could control the outcomes," he confesses. "That arrogance cost me 5 years." Sarah finds herself revealing pieces of her own truth, explaining her background in corporate security before becoming a nurse. She describes her dedication to patient advocacy, carefully framing her interest in corporate accountability without mentioning Rachel. Marcus listens intently, his analytical mind clearly processing this new information about her past. The conversation shifts when Marcus admits remembering voices from his coma state. He recalls board members discussing company decisions in his room, believing him unconscious. Their conversations implicated several executives in systematic corporate misconduct. "They thought I was gone," he says, "but part of me was cataloging every word." A particularly loud thunderclap startles them, and Marcus instinctively reaches for Sarah's hand. The contact generates unexpected tension, their professional relationship increasingly complicated by growing personal connection. Sarah helps him move from the wheelchair to his bed, their physical proximity highlighting the shift in their dynamic. The next day brings scrutiny as Thomas increases his presence at the hospital. He watches Sarah's interactions with Marcus, noting their increased familiarity. During a therapy session, Marcus demonstrates significant physical improvement, managing to walk further than expected. His success leads to an impulsive hug with Sarah, witnessed by Thomas with narrowed eyes. Sarah discovers Marcus has been conducting his own investigation from his hospital bed, using a tablet to review company documents between therapy sessions. His research parallels her own in many ways, though his focus remains on current board members rather than past events. She realizes he's building a case for corporate reform while planning his return. Late-night therapy sessions become opportunities for deeper connection. Marcus shares his fears about returning to his former life, questioning whether he can transform Chen Technologies' culture without losing control to hostile board members. Sarah finds herself offering genuine support despite her mission, recognizing his sincere desire for change. Thomas confronts Sarah with surveillance photos showing her meetings with former employees. Instead of threatening exposure, he reveals his own investigation into the accident. The conversation suggests complex alliances within Chen Technologies, with Thomas potentially acting as a double agent, gathering evidence against corrupt board members. During a breakthrough therapy session, Marcus regains enough strength to stand unassisted. The achievement creates an emotionally charged moment between him and Sarah. Their celebration leads to an almost kiss, interrupted by hospital staff. The incident forces both to acknowledge their growing feelings, while recognizing the complications of their respective secrets. Sarah's research into Marcus's past reveals evidence suggesting he had begun addressing ethical concerns before his accident. Documents show he commissioned internal audits of questionable projects, including the one Rachel worked on. This discovery challenges her assumptions about his role in corporate misconduct. Marcus finds Sarah's collected research about Chen Technologies, but misinterprets it as preparation for helping him regain control of his company. His gratitude for her apparent dedication makes her deception more difficult to maintain. Their conversations increasingly blur professional and personal boundaries as they discuss the company's future. Victoria Hawthorne makes another appearance, this time offering Sarah a position in Chen Technologies' reorganized ethics department. The offer comes with implicit threats about Sarah's investigation and explicit warnings about maintaining professional distance from Marcus. The interaction leaves Sarah questioning her ability to maintain her cover. The topic reaches its climax during another late-night session, where physical therapy evolves into intimate conversation. Marcus discusses his changed perspective after years of dependency, while Sarah shares sanitized versions of her experiences investigating corporate misconduct. Their conversation leads to an unexpected kiss, genuine in emotion, but shadowed by their respective hidden agendas. The evening ends with both Marcus and Sarah receiving separate messages. His board members demand an immediate decision about his return to the company. Sarah's anonymous contact warns that Rachel's safety depends on her next moves. Their moment of connection fractures under the weight of approaching revelations, though neither can fully retreat from their developing feelings. The final scene shows Sarah reviewing the hidden phone's messages between Marcus and Rachel, now understanding they were allies rather than adversaries. This revelation forces her to reevaluate her mission while protecting both Marcus and the possibility of their relationship. Meanwhile, Marcus adds Sarah's name to a secure file titled Project Restoration, suggesting he knows more about her true identity than he's revealed. Sarah uses Rachel's old security badge to enter Chen Technologies' main research facility late at night. The badge's continued functionality feels deliberate, either a trap or a message. She navigates the quiet corridors, her former security training evident in her careful movements and awareness of camera locations. In Marcus's former office, she discovers a hidden wall safe behind an abstract painting, its digital lock responding to a code sequence found in the messages between Marcus and Rachel. The safe contains hard drives and documents detailing a classified AI project called Prometheus. The files reveal Marcus had discovered the project exceeded ethical boundaries, potentially weaponizing AI technology while using human test subjects without consent. His digital signature appears on early authorizations, but later documents show him attempting to shut down the program before his accident. Meanwhile, Thomas calls an emergency board meeting to vote on Marcus's reinstatement as CEO. The timing seems calculated to force decisions before Marcus fully recovers. Board members arrive at Chen Technologies headquarters, their luxury vehicles filling the executive parking level. Security footage shows Thomas rushing between offices before the meeting, clearly attempting to prevent something. Sarah barely avoids discovery by a security patrol, forcing her to hide in a server room. The confined space gives her access to internal networks, where she uncovers evidence that Prometheus remained active during Marcus's coma, now operating under a different project name. The data suggests human testing continued, with Rachel potentially among the subjects. Marcus pushes himself too hard during a private therapy session, determined to regain enough strength to attend the board meeting in person. The physical strain triggers a severe medical episode. His blood pressure spikes dangerously, and he experiences temporary paralysis on his left side. Sarah must choose between maintaining her cover and using her knowledge of his medical history to implement specific emergency protocols not standard for normal nurses. The medical emergency creates another crisis when someone attempts to access Marcus's private medical records. The hospital's cybersecurity team traces the breach to multiple locations, suggesting a coordinated effort to gather information about his condition. Sarah recognizes the pattern from her security background. Someone is assessing his vulnerability. Thomas arrives at the hospital during the chaos, ostensibly concerned about his brother, but clearly agitated about Sarah's presence during the emergency. Their confrontation in the hallway reveals Thomas knows about her connection to Rachel and her investigation. Instead of exposing her, he provides a warning. They're moving faster than we anticipated. Marcus isn't the only target. Sarah faces her own crisis when leaving the hospital that evening. Her car's brake lines have been cut, a fact she discovers just in time thanks to her security training. The accident carries a clear message about escalating stakes. Through her network of contacts, she learns similar warnings have been sent to other Chen Technologies employees connected to Prometheus. Marcus confronts Thomas about inconsistencies in company records from his coma period. The confrontation becomes physical when Thomas attempts to prevent Marcus from accessing certain files on his tablet. Sarah witnesses the altercation, her instinct to protect Marcus warring with the need to maintain her cover. The incident ends with Thomas revealing partial truth. Board members have been selling classified AI technology to unauthorized buyers. The hidden phone Sarah discovered becomes crucial when she finds encrypted messages suggesting Rachel had created a failsafe. documentation of Prometheus's illegal activities stored on secure servers. However, accessing the information requires Marcus's biometric data, which explains the recent attempts to hack his medical records. Sarah orchestrates a plan to protect the evidence while keeping Marcus safe. She coordinates with her network of former Chen Technologies employees, each holding pieces of information about Prometheus. The challenge intensifies when she discovers surveillance teams watching both the hospital and her apartment. A breakthrough comes when Sarah decodes more messages between Marcus and Rachel. They reveal a complex plan to expose corporate corruption while protecting whistleblowers. Marcus had been working with Rachel to create secure channels for employees to report ethical violations. His accident occurred the day before their planned revelation of evidence. The topic culminates in a series of rapid developments. Marcus receives clearance to leave the hospital briefly, using the opportunity to return to Chen Technologies headquarters. Sarah, knowing the danger but unable to reveal her full knowledge, accompanies him as his medical support. Their arrival coincides with a board meeting, where Thomas is presenting evidence about financial irregularities. The scene at headquarters becomes chaotic when security protocols are mysteriously activated, trapping certain board members in their offices while allowing others to escape. Sarah recognizes the pattern. Someone is containing threats while allowing allies to evacuate. She guides Marcus through service corridors, her familiarity with the building's layout raising questions she can't answer. The topic ends with Marcus and Sarah reaching his private office, where they find Thomas unconscious but alive. Security footage shows board members rushing to erase files and remove equipment from restricted areas. Marcus's phone buzzes with an encrypted message. Prometheus protocols initiated. Phase 2 beginning. Sarah recognizes Rachel's coding style in the encryption, realizing her sister's disappearance may have been part of a larger plan now set in motion. Marcus settles into a new routine as his recovery progresses significantly. The hospital wing transforms into a makeshift executive office, with medical equipment sharing space with corporate documents and video conference setups. His increasing strength allows him to conduct business meetings in person, though Sarah remains present under the guise of medical supervision. The board appears to accept Marcus's gradual return to power, with Thomas facilitating a smooth transition that seems too convenient given recent events. Board members who previously opposed Marcus's policies now support his proposed reforms, their sudden cooperation raising red flags for both Marcus and Sarah. Victoria Hawthorne particularly champions his return, though her smiles never quite reach her eyes during their interactions. During physical therapy, Marcus demonstrates remarkable improvement, managing to walk unassisted for longer periods. His success leads to discussions about returning to his penthouse apartment, away from the hospital's security and surveillance. Sarah recognizes the vulnerability this move would create, but can't voice her concerns without revealing her true knowledge of the threats against him. Their relationship deepens during evening therapy sessions that increasingly become private conversations about the future. Marcus shares his vision for reforming Chen Technologies, emphasizing ethical AI development and corporate transparency. His sincerity makes Sarah's deception more difficult, especially when he includes her in his plans for restructuring the company's medical technology division. Thomas presents a proposal for shared leadership of Chen Technologies, suggesting a power-sharing arrangement that would give Marcus control of development, while Thomas maintains operational oversight. The offer seems to resolve tensions between the brothers, though Sarah notices how carefully Thomas words the legal documents, leaving subtle loopholes in Marcus's authority. Sarah receives information suggesting Rachel is alive and living under a new identity in Europe. The evidence includes recent photographs and financial records, showing regular deposits to an account in Switzerland. Everything appears legitimate, but Sarah's security training highlights inconsistencies in the documentation. The timing of this revelation, coinciding with Marcus's return to power, feels orchestrated. The board unanimously welcomes Marcus back during a formal meeting, complete with press coverage and corporate celebrations. Sarah watches from the background as Marcus delivers a compelling speech about ethical technology development and corporate responsibility. The audience's enthusiastic response seems genuine, yet she notices several board members exchanging subtle glances during key portions of his address. Marcus and Sarah share a quiet evening in his hospital room, planning their respective futures. He discusses his plans for restructuring Chen Technologies, while she offers insights about medical technology development, each carefully avoiding topics that would expose their secrets. Their conversation leads to another kiss, more passionate than their first, both aware they're building a relationship on partial truths. Victoria approaches Sarah with a job offer, heading a new patient advocacy program within Chen Technologies' medical division. The position would leverage her nursing experience while keeping her close to Marcus, though it would also place her under direct board oversight. The offer feels like both opportunity and trap, especially when Victoria casually mentions having contact with former employees who've relocated overseas. Thomas organizes a private dinner to celebrate Marcus's recovery, inviting key board members and senior executives. The evening proceeds smoothly until Marcus mentions specific pre-coma projects, causing subtle but noticeable tension among certain attendees. Sarah, present as his medical support, catalogues reactions that suggest coordinated responses to potential threats. Corporate lawyers present Marcus with documents transferring full executive powers back to him, the contracts appearing straightforward but containing carefully buried clauses about board oversight of specific projects. Thomas encourages immediate signing, citing market confidence, but Marcus insists on thorough review, demonstrating his returning tactical awareness. Sarah discovers her sister's research files have been accessed recently, though the digital timestamps appear manipulated. The activity traces back to secure servers Marcus recently had Thomas unlock, suggesting either brother might be investigating Rachel's disappearance. The uncertainty about their motives complicates her already conflicted loyalties. The hospital board approves Marcus's release from inpatient care, transitioning him to outpatient therapy, with Sarah remaining as his private nurse. This arrangement maintains their daily contact while moving him back into the corporate world, creating new challenges for both their professional and personal relationships. Marcus confides in Sarah about memory fragments that suggest board members discussed business dealings in his room during his coma, believing him unconscious. These recollections align with evidence Sarah has gathered, but can't acknowledge knowing. Their conversation reinforces their connection while highlighting the secrets between them. The topic reaches its climax during a private moment in Marcus's newly reopened office at Chen Technologies. They discuss their growing feelings and future possibilities, both knowing they're withholding crucial information. The scene ends with them making plans together, each believing they're protecting the other, while missing signs of approaching danger. The final scene shows Sarah receiving an urgent message from her contact about suspicious financial transfers from Chen Technologies' research accounts, while Marcus quietly adds her to a restricted project file labeled Legacy Protection. Their apparent peace masks mounting evidence that multiple parties are positioning for a confrontation, with their relationship caught in the crossfire. Sarah's routine morning check of Marcus's vitals is interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Rachel appears in the doorway, alive and composed in a tailored business suit. The sisters stare at each other, while Marcus looks between them, recognition dawning on his face. Rachel's presence shatters multiple deceptions simultaneously, forcing immediate recalibration of relationships and motives. Rachel reveals she's been working undercover with federal investigators, her disappearance orchestrated to gather evidence about illegal human testing in Chen Technologies' AI division. She produces documentation showing Marcus had discovered the ethical violations and begun building a case against board members before his accident. His signature on early authorizations had been digitally forged after his coma began. Marcus experiences a rush of recovered memories during Rachel's explanation. He remembers late-night meetings with her, planning to expose the board's illegal activities. Their collaboration had extended to creating secure channels for whistleblowers and documenting ethical violations. The night of his accident, he had been preparing to present evidence to federal authorities. Thomas arrives during this revelation, his reaction suggesting prior knowledge of Rachel's status. He explains his role as a double agent within the board, maintaining the appearance of corporate loyalty while gathering evidence of criminal activities. His recent actions, including pushing for Marcus's return to power, were calculated to force board members into revealing their ongoing illegal operations. Sarah's years of investigation suddenly align with Marcus's pre-coma efforts and Thomas's undercover work. The three separate investigations have uncovered different aspects of a larger conspiracy involving military applications of AI technology, unauthorized human testing, and international corporate espionage. Rachel explains her role in a federal task force investigating multiple tech companies for ethical violations. Chen Technologies had become a primary target, after whistleblowers reported human testing disguised as medical trials. Marcus's accident occurred the night he discovered evidence linking board members to authorized testing facilities. The medical wing becomes a temporary command center as multiple pieces of evidence are consolidated. Sarah's research combines with Rachel's federal documentation and Thomas's internal records to create a comprehensive picture of corporate corruption. Marcus's returning memories provide crucial context for connecting seemingly unrelated events. Victoria Hawthorne makes an unscheduled appearance, realizing too late she's walked into an exposed operation. Her attempt to maintain composure fails when Rachel produces recordings of her directing the continuation of illegal testing during Marcus's coma. The confrontation reveals Victoria as a key architect of the conspiracy, using her board position to facilitate unauthorized research. Marcus recounts a crucial memory from the night of his accident. He had discovered board members were selling experimental AI technology to unauthorized foreign entities, using human test subjects to perfect military applications. His ethical concerns threatened both corporate profits and international deals worth billions. Thomas reveals security footage showing board members entering Marcus's office the night of his accident. The timestamps match withdrawals from slush funds and the initiation of multiple cover-up protocols. The evidence suggests a coordinated effort to silence Marcus before he could expose their activities. Sarah shares her documentation of hospital visitors during Marcus's coma, revealing patterns of board members checking on his condition and discussing business in his room. Their conversations, which they assumed he couldn't hear, provide additional evidence of ongoing illegal operations. Rachel produces federal warrants as security teams begin securing Chen Technologies' headquarters. Board members are detained for questioning, while technical teams seize servers and documentation. The operation reveals the extent of corporate corruption, while validating the separate investigations conducted by Marcus, Sarah, and Thomas. The siblings explain how they maintained their double-agent roles during Marcus's coma. Thomas appeared to support the board while documenting their activities, while Rachel worked with federal authorities to track international connections. Their efforts preserved evidence while preventing the board from realizing the extent of the investigation. Marcus and Sarah finally have an honest conversation about their feelings, acknowledging how their separate missions led them to genuine connection. The deceptions between them, while professionally necessary, created emotional complications that now require resolution. The topic concludes with the arrival of federal agents to formally collect statements about the conspiracy. Marcus, Sarah, Rachel, and Thomas each provide their perspective on events, their combined testimony creating a comprehensive picture of corporate corruption and attempted reform. The scene ends with Marcus reaching for Sarah's hand as they begin the process of reconciling truth with trust, their personal relationship now free from professional deception, but facing new challenges in the aftermath of exposed secrets. The detained board members, led by Victoria Hawthorne, attempt a final power play through their legal team. They present evidence painting both Marcus and Rachel as willing participants in the early stages of questionable research, threatening to implicate them in any criminal investigation. The documentation appears legitimate, though carefully edited, to emphasize their involvement while minimizing board members' culpability. Victoria's lawyers propose a buyout offer that would guarantee board members immunity in exchange for their silence about Marcus's early project authorizations. The deal includes substantial financial compensation for affected employees, but requires all parties to sign non-disclosure agreements. The offer carries an implicit threat. If Marcus refuses, they'll ensure his reputation and company fall with them. Sarah faces her own crisis when federal investigators question her nursing credentials and hospital employment history. Her methods of gathering evidence, while effective, occasionally crossed legal boundaries. The investigation threatens both her professional license and her ability to testify against board members. She must choose between protecting her career and ensuring justice. Marcus confronts his past actions publicly during a press conference, acknowledging his initial oversight of ethical concerns while revealing his subsequent efforts to reform company practices. His honesty resonates with employees and shareholders, though it provides ammunition for board members attempting to shift blame. The media coverage forces Chen Technologies' stock into freefall as investors react to revelations of corporate misconduct. Thomas presents evidence clearing both Marcus and Rachel, of willing participation in illegal activities, but using it would require exposing their father's role in establishing questionable research protocols. The proof would protect them legally while destroying their family's legacy and their father's reputation in the tech industry. The decision forces them to weigh personal vindication against family loyalty. Sarah's sister testifies before regulatory committees detailing the progression of unauthorized testing and international technology sales. Her testimony draws attention from foreign governments whose citizens were unknowingly involved in trials. The international scrutiny complicates efforts to resolve the situation quietly, increasing pressure for full disclosure. Victoria makes a final attempt to maintain control, releasing selected documents to media outlets that question Marcus's ability to lead given his extended coma. The coverage suggests his medical condition might affect decision-making, using Sarah's presence to imply dependency. Marcus must decide whether fighting these allegations would justify exposing his private medical records. Federal prosecutors offer plea deals to lower-level executives in exchange for testimony about board members' activities. The resulting evidence creates a comprehensive picture of corporate corruption, but also reveals how many employees chose silence over intervention. Marcus faces difficult decisions about retaining staff who failed to report ethical violations. Sarah and Marcus work together to prevent one final attempt on his life when investigation reveals a contingency plan activated by desperate board members. The threat forces them to trust each other completely, despite their history of mutual deception. Their coordination during the crisis demonstrates how their professional partnership has evolved into genuine teamwork. Rachel provides crucial testimony linking board members to international technology sales, but doing so exposes her role in federal investigations. Her revelation protects Marcus while potentially compromising ongoing operations at other companies. The choice between family loyalty and professional duty strains her relationship with federal authorities. Board members make a final offer, Marcus's silence, in exchange for the company's survival. They demonstrate how public revelation of all illegal activities would destroy Chen Technologies, costing thousands of jobs and setting back legitimate research projects. The proposal forces Marcus to weigh justice against practical consequences for innocent employees. Thomas discovers evidence that their father had documented board members' illegal activities before his death, providing proof of their long-term corruption. Using this information would clear Marcus, while forcing a re-examination of years of corporate decisions. The revelation would protect the company's future, but tarnish its entire history. Sarah receives pressure from hospital administration to distance herself from the investigation, citing potential liability issues. Her position as Marcus's private nurse becomes complicated by their personal relationship and her role in exposing corporate misconduct. She must choose between maintaining professional appearances and supporting his public statement of events. The topic reaches its climax during a private meeting between all major parties, where Victoria attempts one final manipulation by revealing she knows the full extent of Sarah and Marcus's relationship timeline. She suggests their personal connection could be portrayed as inappropriate, given his vulnerable condition, threatening both their professional reputations. The scene concludes with Marcus making a decisive choice. He authorizes a complete disclosure of all evidence, accepting personal consequences to ensure corporate accountability. Sarah supports his decision despite risks to her career, while Thomas and Rachel align their testimonies to present a united front. The board members' final attempts at leverage fail as the truth emerges in its entirety. Marcus takes a definitive stance on transparency, working directly with federal investigators to expose all aspects of corporate misconduct. His decision prioritizes industry reform over personal consequences, providing detailed testimony about both the ethical violations he discovered and his own initial failure to recognize warning signs. The process requires him to publicly acknowledge how his pre-coma focus on technological advancement had sometimes overshadowed ethical considerations. Sarah establishes an independent position within the reformed company, accepting a role heading the newly created Ethical Compliance Division. Her background in both security and healthcare proves valuable in developing protocols that balance innovation with human safety. The position allows her to maintain professional credibility while building on her relationship with Marcus, though they carefully manage potential conflicts of interest. Thomas assumes operational control of daily business activities, implementing strict ethical guidelines that become industry standards. His experience maintaining cover during the investigation helps him identify potential compliance issues before they develop into serious problems. The brothers' partnership leverages their complementary strengths, Marcus's visionary leadership and Thomas's practical oversight. The federal investigation leads to criminal charges against multiple board members, with Victoria Hawthorne and key conspirators facing significant prison terms. Their trials expose systematic corruption across the tech industry, prompting regulatory reforms and increased oversight of AI development. Marcus's testimony proves crucial in securing convictions while establishing precedents for corporate accountability. Rachel's role in the federal investigation becomes public, leading to her appointment as a special advisor on technology ethics to regulatory agencies. Her experience as both whistleblower and undercover operative provides unique insights into preventing corporate abuse. The position allows her to maintain family connections while continuing her work protecting public interests. Sarah and Marcus navigate the challenges of building a personal relationship amid intense public scrutiny. Their shared experience during his recovery and the investigation creates a strong foundation, though they maintain professional boundaries at work. Their wedding takes place in a private ceremony 1 year after the investigation concludes, attended by family and close allies from the corporate reform effort. Chen Technologies undergoes comprehensive restructuring, with Marcus leading the development of ethical AI applications while establishing industry-leading transparency practices. The company's financial recovery demonstrates that ethical business practices can coexist with technological innovation. Their success influences other corporations to adopt similar reforms. Thomas's management of company operations focuses on protecting employees who aided the investigation while identifying those who enabled misconduct. His approach balances accountability with opportunity for redemption, creating a corporate culture that encourages ethical behavior without fostering fear. The policies become a model for other companies facing similar challenges. Sarah transforms her compliance division into an internal watchdog organization with genuine authority to halt projects raising ethical concerns. Her team includes both technical experts and ethics specialists, ensuring comprehensive review of all research proposals. The structure prevents the compartmentalization that previously enabled abuse while promoting innovative solutions to ethical challenges. Marcus and Sarah establish a foundation supporting corporate whistleblowers and ethical tech development, using their experience to help others navigate similar situations. The organization provides legal support, career counseling, and technical expertise to individuals exposing corporate misconduct. Their personal involvement demonstrates ongoing commitment to industry reform. Rachel's regulatory work leads to the creation of international standards for AI testing and development. Her collaboration with Marcus ensures these guidelines protect innovation while preventing abuse. Their public reconciliation and professional cooperation help restore faith in corporate leadership commitment to ethical practices. The Chen family legacy transforms from one of technological achievement to ethical leadership in corporate reform. Thomas's management style and Marcus's visionary direction create a new standard for balancing progress with responsibility. Their success challenges industry assumptions about the necessity of compromising ethics for advancement. Sarah's role evolves to include mentoring other compliance officers and ethics specialists across the industry. Her unique perspective as both investigator and healthcare professional brings valuable insights to developing comprehensive oversight systems. Her work helps bridge gaps between technical innovation and human safety considerations. The topic concludes with a scene 1 year after the main events. Marcus and Sarah review applications for their foundation's whistleblower support program while discussing the company's latest ethical AI developments. Their conversation reflects both professional satisfaction and personal contentment, demonstrating how their individual missions merged into shared purpose. The final scene shows the reformed Chen Technologies hosting an industry conference on ethical AI development. Marcus delivers the keynote address, while Sarah, Thomas, and Rachel participate in panel discussions about corporate responsibility. Their family's journey from crisis to leadership in corporate reform becomes a case study in transforming personal challenges into positive industry change. The resolution demonstrates how individual choices during crucial moments can influence not just personal destinies, but entire industries. Marcus's decision to prioritize transparency Sarah's commitment to ethical oversight, Thomas's balanced leadership, and Rachel's regulatory work combined to create lasting positive impact beyond their immediate circle.